Assalamualaikum and good morning to ladies and gentlemen. With me, Fadilah as your chairperson today. I hope all of you were in think of health. You are lucky to be here today as we are going to discuss on a word topic which is positive and negative terms of first impression. Before that, I would like to introduce our panel. Alright, to my left, our first panel member, Dr. Ridwan, is a motivational expert at a private institution and has served for 5 years in this field. Next up is our second panelist, Ms. Auni, which is a student studying at Wiyat University in psychology. Do not forget, to my right, it looks shy, but it's hard to say. Ms. Fadilah is one of the great online motivators of these days. And last, looks strict, but friendly actually. Mrs. Akila was a counseling teacher at a prestige school in Shah. So, thank you for coming and welcome to our discussion today. I would like to call upon to my first panel, Mr. Ridwan. What is your general view of first impression?
People rely on first impression every day as an important tool to interpret social behavior. One of the positive effects of first impression is we use them to determine who we will should approach and who we should avoid, because first impressions are relevant from a social perspective for future interactions. Based on the article that I read, first impression can be learned from behavioral measure, which is an investigation of the factors that influence first impression formation, and the corresponding neural underpinnings allows one to ask more questions about forming impressions and their storage in memory. For example, the study that we use is a study of subsequent memory paradigm to test the conditions under which the dorsal medial prefrontal cortex is implicated in the recording of first impressions. And this result indicate that this neural system subserving memory of first impression is sensitive to consciously form impressions. The second positive impact for first impression, based on the article that I read, is first impression based on facial appearance affect the cognition of basic emotions. For example, a total 150 participants complete a dynamic emotion recognition task. The participant viewed videos of individuals with trustworthy looking and untrustworthy looking, and continuously displaying basic emotion with, such as happiness, anger, fear, and sad. And the result is untrustworthy looking face decrease the participants' emotion, accuracy, and speed. In addition, face that allocate a positive inference of trustworthiness enhance emotion recognition, speed of fear and sadness. Emotional expressions that signal others' distress and modulate prosocial behavior.
Thank you for your opinion, Mr. Ridwan. So now, we have heard that how this term in the positive way. So how about we heard from Miss Akila? How your opinion about first impression in the negative terms?
The famous quotes relate to the first impression. Assalamualaikum and good morning, I bid to all of you. Changing negative first impression is difficult. A person who forms a negative impression of another person will be less inclined to meet that person for a second time because that person has been judged in a negative light. Without subsequent meeting, the person who has been judged negatively does not have an opportunity to change the mind of the person who judged them. For example, let's say a person does or say anything in your first meeting that you consider a complete breach of character. You might notice that the person you have met in fine with lying or putting other down behind their back and then activity nice to their faces. However, first impression usually refer to unarticulated emotion. If you are not self-aware about bringing your emotion into consequences, you are much more subjective to bias or prejudice about people that even in your objective thinking. As a result, you will dismiss someone after a first meeting, an encounter when your own reasoning mind. Besides that, in one study, scientists found that first impressions are generally influenced most by non-verbal communication and body language. They found that clothing, hairstyle, accessories, and other aspects of a person's outward appearance have a seemingly smaller influence on first impression. Other scientists' research also support the idea that facial clues and body language have the strongest effect on first impression. They have determined that people who strongly express their emotion non-verbally, their facial expression. So, it appeared that simply being expressive, especially showing positive emotion like joy and happiness, can make a good first impression. This emotion can be expressed through body orientation, posture, eye contact, tone of voice, mouth position, and eyebrow shape.
Okay, thank you, Miss Akila. Since Miss Akila against the issue, so what your opinion in this matter, Miss Auni?
Impression could be a misjudgment where people judge other person based on assumed similarity, which means a person's tendency to view someone else as similar as themselves even when on the first meeting. For example, a person who is a quiet person and they tend to think the other person are also quiet as them. And then on the next point of bad effect on first impression is the first impression will having a bad influence, which is they trusting their own intuition, which is different to everyone else, and it could lead to an incorrect prediction and poor selection decision, especially in job interviews.
Thank you, Miss Auni. Since Auni already gave the negative opinion, so let's hear from the positive side of first impression. How about your opinion, Miss Fadila? First of all, thank you to Miss Chairwoman. So, while the nature of facial features is well known, certain influences such as clothes do play a role in the creation of impression. Clothing also became medium by which such features were commonly viewed. It has a huge effect on the consideration of various attributes such as characters, sociability, competence, and intelligence, with first impression in a split second. So clothing may convey a large and dynamic range of individual insight without meeting or talking to the wearer. Manipulation of slight clothing specifics give rise to numerous first impressions, even very easily formed ones. In a case study that shows men believe that well-chosen clothes will reflect their intelligence, integrity, knowledge, honest, and trustworthy. The effects shown in this experiment were seen for a period of 5 seconds, and they focused on clothing alone without facial characteristic and judgment. The result proved that while facial characteristics become blurred, people make quick judgment about others on the basics of clothing alone. People create first impressions of others every day. They do it easily and without effort. So Demhurst states that dress is a systematic means of transmission of information about the wearer. Next is gaze plays a significant function in influencing social impression, psychological states, emotion, and social interactions such as likability, attractiveness, and credibility. So research has shown that the more a person stares at someone, the most positive character attributes a person is considered to have. People in social interaction prefer individuals who gaze to others compared to those who look downward. So, in a simple word, individuals who made eye contact are considered more attentive during social encounters. Thus, direct gaze was found to affect positively how much someone was liked and the attraction towards the person who made eye contact. Some people who received a direct gaze reported that they feeling more affirmed and their social impression with other people was more positive compared with those who received an averted gaze. Meaning that gaze serve several important functions in complex social interactions such as regulating interactions, facilitating communications goals, and expressing intimacy and social control. So, that's all my opinion. Okay, thank you. Back to the chairwoman. Thank you, Ms. Padilla. Thanks also to the panel for sharing your opinion on our discussion today. So, to conclude, first impression matter for good and bad. They are fine when you like someone on first meeting. They are not so fine when the first meeting is negative. Positive first impression lead to social cohesion. Negative first impressions lead to bias and social prejudice. So, that's all from us. Thank you and Assalamualaikum.